for many, many, many years sometimes. And they were holding it in and holding it in and holding it in, and there was no way to let it out, and eventually it just comes out, and it comes out far too much. By the way, when it does come out, then it's ghadab. When it does release, that's ghadab. If you're able to hold it in and contain it, and it's boiling on the inside, but nobody knows on the outside, that is still ghayz. And I want to start off with, for the most part, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they withstood a lot. And they were insulted publicly. Their messenger, who they loved more than their own selves, was insulted in front of them. He was cursed, he was spit at, he was pushed away, he was almost stoned to death, he was expelled from his home. They were taken out of their homes. Can you imagine the anger you would have if somebody was taking you out of your home? If somebody was taking me and my family and my kids out of my home and kicking them out and pushing them away and threatening them and then moving in like it's theirs? Can you imagine that kind of anger? Can you imagine the anger against those who tried to kill you? And have made fun of you and even tried to kill you. You've gone to war with them multiple times. Those are the people that the Prophet ﷺ taught the Sahaba to engage even them with the ethics of war. In other words, you don't go overboard in your anger. You deal with them patiently. And that ghayz of the companions was put to the test. I mean, they got to release some of it at Badr. Some of it released at Uhud, some of it released at Ahzab. But by the time we get to Hudaibiyya and the treaty that the companions reached, how frustrated were they? How angry were the companions that now they've made it all the way. They didn't even come with weapons. They come all the way to Mecca. They reach this unmanned place, Hudaibiyya, where human beings aren't even supposed to be there. It's an abandoned field. And the way to get there is through burning rocks. Like, it's not even a path you travel for people. Even animals don't go on that path. And that's the path they took to get there because they were afraid of getting attacked. And Meccans were actually on the attack on the way that the Muslims were going to Hajj. And this is in itself enraging because for the people of Mecca, they had one policy. If somebody comes to Hajj, we don't attack them. Well, because even the mushrik, the idol-worshipping tribes, they used to do Hajj too. They used to come for pilgrimage also. But the Meccans had mutual respect from everybody because they're not going to attack somebody who comes for the purpose of worship. But they even then broke their own constitution and tried to attack. They sent actually back then Khalid ibn Walid, who wasn't Muslim yet, radiallahu anhu. They sent a battalion with him to try to attack the Muslims on their way to Hudaybiyah, on their way to Hajj. So they had to take another route, and literally, some narrations describe as they're making their way to Hudaybiyah, they were bleeding because the jagged rocks and the thorns on the path, because even animals don't go there, were cutting their legs and their shins as they were going. And the shoes were melting off from the burning rock, and people's feet were burning as they were going on this path to get to Hudaybiyah. They didn't get there easily. And when they get there, and they bring all of their animals there for slaughter, then they find out after much back and forth that they can't do Hajj. They have to go back. And not only do they have to go back, they have to slaughter the animal and they have to give the meat of that animal to the people of Mecca. Because that's where the meat is supposed to go. So those people who kept us from doing Hajj are going to eat our animals. That's the first udhiyah, that's the Eid al-Adha, the first one. We're very happy when the animal is slaughtered. They were not happy when the animal was slaughtered. And this was ghayz. So when the Prophet ﷺ told them to shave their heads, take their ihram off, head back, actually that ghayz turned into ghadab. It came out. And for the first time, the entirety of the companions, the people of sami'na wa ata'na, we hear and we obey. This is how Quran describes these people. We hear and we obey. The Prophet ﷺ tells all of them to listen, none of them listen. None of them listen. So, to the point where even Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, who's supposed to be the symbol of the obedience and loyalty to the Prophet ﷺ, hears Umar bin al-Khattab. Umar got up and spoke out. And he lashed out. Actually, he lashed out at the Prophet ﷺ. He got loud in front of everybody. And he even said, Alasna ala al-haq? Aren't we following the right religion? Wait, what do you mean? And he even questioned the Prophet, didn't you see a dream we're coming here? And the Prophet ﷺ said, I never said this year. But then he could have just said, well, if it's not this year, what are we doing here this year? And he got so mad, he took those, and by the way, when he said these questions, even Abu Bakr can hear him. But usually when Umar bin al-Khattab used to get angry, who used to calm him down? Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. But even Abu Bakr as-Siddiq said nothing. He said nothing. Then he went to Abu Bakr and repeated the same questions, and Abu Bakr said, you better watch it. Then you put him on, you calmed him down, you know? But this is the level and by the way, all of this happened, you have to bear in mind that when somebody raises their voice to the Prophet ﷺ, or when people disobey the messengers in the Quran, that's not a small thing, is it? Disobeying messengers. And yet no ayat of the Quran came to reprimand those companions for doing what they did. As a matter of fact, the Quran that came down to comment on what happened, all of it, it actually includes some of the greatest praises of those companions ever. Ever. Actually compares them to a growing, maturing crop, you know, at the end of Surah Al-Fath, you know. And it's an incredible, incredible image. Why? Why though? They were angry. Allah should have said, you shouldn't have gotten angry. You should have obeyed the Prophet ﷺ. Remember in the battle of Uhud, when some of the companions decided to come down from the mount and didn't obey the Prophet ﷺ, then ayat came. حتى إذا فشلتم وتنازعتم في الأمر وعصيتم من بعد ما أراكم ما تحبون منكم من يريد الدنيا ومنكم من يريد الآخرة. Ayat came to criticize them. But here, all of them disobeyed. And no criticism. This is Allah's way of telling us there are some times where anger can become overwhelming and it's justified. Even at that stage. Imagine the woman in Surah Al-Mujadila, the opening of Surah Al-Mujadila that came to the Prophet ﷺ, started raising her voice. My husband just told me that I'm like his mother to him now. He won't be with me anymore. This was the jahil way, the ignorant way of giving a divorce to your wife. It wasn't really a divorce, but the guy got angry at his wife and said, from today on, you're like my mom. That's what I'm going to call you. That just means we're done. Because I can't think of you anymore. That would be as disgusting to me as thinking about my own mother. It was a really nasty thing to say. So they did that. He did lihar to her. And she came complaining to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet didn't know what to tell her, ﷺ. He didn't have revelation to answer that question. So he remained silent. He says, I don't know what to tell you. And she gets angrier and angrier. She gets louder and louder. And then Quran comes, Surah Al-Mujadila comes, and Allah Azza wa Jal says, قَدْ سَمِعَ اللَّهُ قَوْلَ الَّتِي تُجَادِلُكَ فِي زَوْجِهَا وَتَشْتَكِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. Allah heard the call of the one complaining about her spouse that came to you, and she's complaining to Allah, and Allah is listening all along to both of your dialogue. وَاللَّهُ يَسْمَعُ تَحَاوُرَكُمَا. Allah is listening to the dialogue happening between both of you. But even then, He doesn't say, لَا تَرْفَعُوا أَصْوَاتَكُمْ فَوْقَ صَوْتِ النَّبِيِّ. He doesn't say, you better be quiet, you better just listen, you better recognize that's the messenger of Allah. No, at that moment, that anger was justified. That was okay. Allah actually took her side. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. When someone's in a desperate situation and their anger gets the best of them, Allah is on their side. That when somebody's mazloom, when somebody's been wronged, those Sahaba were wronged for many, 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 many years. It just came out. It came out in ways that they never imagined they would ever do. That's okay. As a matter of fact, had it been anybody else, it would have been a riot at Hudaibiyya. Forget it, we're going to fight. We don't care. The fact that they just didn't obey or didn't take their ihram off at first is pretty amazing. And the Prophet ﷺ doesn't have a giant microphone. There are no water hoses with like police to calm the crowd down. A crowd of 1,800 to 2,000, and they're calmly disobeying. Calmly, just expressing their anger. And one or two of them speak out. That's incredible. That's why Allah actually praises it. Allah does not say you can't be angry. But Allah praises those companions for the way they expressed their anger. It's an incredible moment in our history. It's something really profound to learn from. Allah does not say you shouldn't get angry. Of course you're going to get angry. When injustice happens, you and I become angry. We become frustrated. But what makes them those mature crop is how they dealt with that anger. Even if for a moment they lost it, they regained themselves. They regained their composure. So you've got incident after incident, and the final angry incident, just because this first part of this khutbah, I really wanted to highlight, it's okay to be angry sometimes. That's okay. You're not a terrible human being if you got angry in certain situations. And this third case I want to share with you is probably the most extreme case in the story of the Prophet ﷺ. And that's when his own wife was accused of wrongdoing. And the entire city of Medina, وَالنَّاسُ يُفِيضُونَ فِي قَوْلِ أَصْحَابِ